Hello and welcome to Temanggung Talks. I'm Uzair, your host for today, and with me are Mr. Aziz, an experienced teacher, and Amirul, a student. In today's episode, we'll dive into academic communication, specifically comparing student-teacher and student-student interactions. Okay, effective communication is a fundamental part of education. The way students interact with their teachers versus their peers affects how well they understand lessons, build relationships, and even their confidence in learning. However, these two types of communication are very different. We will be discussing this difference with the challenges students face and practical ways to improve communication skills. Okay. So, let's begin with a simple but crucial question. Why do you think communication is important in an academic setting? Mr. Aziz, can you answer it?
Alright, thank you for opening your question to me. Alright, so first of all, communication is a key because it helps students engage with lessons, clarify misunderstandings, and work collaboratively. Research shows that students who actively participate in discussions perform better academically. Teachers also rely on communication to assess students' understanding, provide feedback, and guide them effectively.
Okay.
And how about you,
So, for me, I completely agree. Communication is essential because it determines how well students can seek help, share ideas, and collaborate on projects. But the way we talk to teachers and the way we talk to friends are completely different, right?
Yeah.
True.
There are differences in expectation, formality, and even a level of respect we have to maintain.
Okay. So, now we will be discussing about impact of digital communication. Okay? That's an interesting point, Amirul. Mr. Aziz, do you think students today struggle more with communication compared to previous generations, especially with the rise of digital platforms?
From what I understand based on the question, it's a yes in some ways. Communication has become easier because students can reach out to their teachers via mail, emails, learning platforms, and even messaging apps. But digital communication also brings challenges. Tone and intent can be lost in written messages. For example, when students send emails to teachers, they sometimes sound too informal, which might be perceived as disrespectful. A study by Baron in 2020 found that many students struggle with formal email etiquette, leading to miscommunications.
I totally relate. Sometimes I hesitate before sending an email to teachers because I'm not sure if my wording sound professional enough. But when I text my friend, I don't even think twice.
That's a great example. This leads us into our main discussion. Okay? How student-teacher communication differs from student-student communication. Power dynamics and formality in communication. So, one of the biggest differences in communication is power dynamics. Okay? Communication with teachers is more structured, while peer communication is more relaxed. Mr. Aziz, have you noticed challenges in student-teacher communication?
Yes, many students hesitate to ask for clarification because they fear looking weak, Studies by Gilles and Curl in 2020 found that students often avoid speaking up in class due to fear of judgment. So I remember once one of my students who misunderstood an assignment but didn't ask for clarification. So had he asked earlier, he could have saved himself from unnecessary mistakes.
That's really common, but peer communication has its own challenges too. Amirul, have you experienced miscommunication with classmates before?
I think yes, actually, because in a group project, one student took charge but didn't explain everyone's roles properly. A study by Johnson and Johnson in 2019 found that unclear communication in group work leads to lower performance and team conflict. We ended up wasting a lot of time redoing tasks because we weren't on the same page.
I believe that also happens a lot in the group work actually. But what could have helped in that situation for you?
I think setting clear expectation and having regular check-ins would have made a big difference. We just assumed everyone knew their role, which wasn't the case.
Okay, then talk to me. Talk to me. What's wrong? What's wrong with you?
Fear of speaking up. Now, let's talk about common communication challenges. The first one is fear of speaking up.
Yes, fear of speaking up is one of the big issues from my perspective, because some students hesitate to ask questions because they think that they might sound stupid in front of others. Research by Tatar 2019 shows that students with fear of failure tend to participate less in the class discussion, which affects their academic performance.
I think that is so true, because I have seen a friends who remain silent even when they were confused about a topic because they don't want to be embraced and they don't want to be judged.
Okay, and now we move to lack of clarity. Okay, another challenge is clarity. As you guys know, miscommunication can happen when teachers use complex academic jargon and students don't ask for explanations. On the other hand, students assume their friends understand them without explaining properly.
Yes, sure. Teachers must sometimes forget that students might not familiar with certain terms. That's why, as educators, we have to be mindful of that. But students also need something to speak up when they don't understand something, because that's our responsible to explain that.
So, I think challenges of digital communication is a big issue I face in digital communication. Email and messages can be easily misinterpreted. Like, if you cannot know, you can describe what is the email.
True. That's exactly my point. Because thank you for your point. Many students don't realize that emails to teachers should be formal. I've received emails that start with "Hi sir," which isn't appropriate. Students need to learn professional communication skills.
And even in group chats, message can get misinterpreted. Some students don't read all message, leading to confusion.
Motivation mainly comes under clarity. I think it's Tony Robbins who says the unmotivated, the self-motivated, and then the motivators. Most people are unmotivated because they're so conditioned to the job. They're like, it's up to my boss to get me fired up about what I've got to do today. But their boss is the motivator, or the manager is the motivator. Whereas in network marketing, we still need to motivate the team. They will become motivated or self-motivated when they have the clarity. But in the meantime, you need to drive that.
And now we move to improving students-teacher communication. Let's talk about solutions. Mr. Aziz, what strategies can help students communicate better with teachers?
By start asking small questions in class, I believe, because over time it builds confidence. Also, practice structuring emails properly by using greetings, clear explanation, and polite closing remarks. So how about you, Amirul? What do you think?
I think from Mr. Aziz that is a really great tip. Writing down what I want to say before talking to a teacher also helped me feel more confident and more comfortable.
And now we are talking about improving peer communication. What about peer communication? How can students ensure clarity when working with classmates? How about you, Amirul?
I think setting clear rules in a group work and using active listening techniques like summarizing what someone said can help avoid misunderstanding. What about you, Mr. Aziz?
Exactly. Structured communication also makes collaboration become smoother. From my previous experience as an educator.
Thank you, Mr. Aziz and Amirul, for sharing your insights. We hope today's discussion helps students improve their communication skills. Stay tuned for our next episode of Temanggung Talks. Until then, keep learning and keep communicating.
But before we end this, I want to say big thank you to Uzay because he invited us, Mr. Aziz and Amirul, to this podcast.